Alright folks, gather around. Tonight, we're diving into a topic that's about as fun as a root canal bankruptcy. But hold on, before you switch channels, this one's got twists and turns that would make even M. Night Shyamalan jealous. Here's a fun fact to kick things off. Did you know that in 2023, over 400,000 businesses in the US went belly up? That's like if every single person in Oakland, California, woke up one morning and decided to shut shop. Poof, gone. And get this, experts are predicting that 2024 is gonna make 2023 look like a picnic. We're talking a potential bankruptcy boom, folks. Now I know what you're thinking. John, why you gotta bring the mood down? It's Wednesday night, I just had pizza, I'm feeling good. And you're right, you deserve good vibes. But here's the thing, this ain't just about numbers on a spreadsheet. This is about real people, real businesses, and the very real possibility of a global economic meltdown. Buckle up, Buttercup. Things are about to get interesting. Let's start with the obvious. The economy is being hit by a perfect storm of, frankly, terrible factors. It's like trying to juggle chainsaws while riding a unicycle on a tightrope. Bound to go wrong. First up, we've got interest rates, which are about as friendly as a rabid badger. Remember those days when you could get a loan with an interest rate so low it practically whispered sweet nothings in your ear? Yeah, those days are gone, folks. Gone like your hopes and dreams. Interest rates have been steadily climbing, making it harder for businesses to borrow money and stay afloat. It's like trying to swim with an anchor tied to your leg. And then there's inflation, which is basically the fancy term for everything costs more but your paycheck stays the same. Thanks inflation, you're a real pal. When prices skyrocket, businesses get squeezed from both ends. They have to pay more for everything, but they can't always raise prices because customers are already feeling the pinch. It's a lose-lose situation. Kind of like that time I tried to cut my own hair. But wait, there's more. The global supply chain, that intricate web that brings us everything from smartphones to socks, is still in shambles. Thanks to the pandemic, the war in Ukraine, and a general sense of global chaos, getting goods from point A to point B is about as reliable as a pigeon delivering a message. This means delays, shortages, and higher costs, which are all nails in the coffin for struggling businesses. Let's zoom in on those pesky interest rates for a moment, shall we? They're like the silent killer in this whole bankruptcy saga. You don't always see them coming, but they can sneak up on you and do some serious damage. See, when interest rates are low, it's like borrowing money from a generous grandpa who slips you an extra 20 bucks just because. Businesses can borrow money cheaply, invest in growth, and keep the economic wheels turning. But when those rates go up, it's like borrowing from a loan shark who breaks your kneecaps if you're late on a payment. Higher interest rates make it more expensive for businesses to borrow money, which means they have less cash to invest, hire employees, or even just keep the lights on. It's a vicious cycle. Higher rates lead to less borrowing, less investment, and ultimately, more bankruptcies. And here's the kicker. The Federal Reserve, the big kahuna of US monetary policy, has been raising interest rates aggressively to try and tame inflation. They're like the economic firefighters trying to put out the inflation fire with a garden hose. It might work eventually, but it's going to cause a lot of collateral damage in the meantime. Inflation, my friends, is like that annoying mosquito that just won't go away no matter how much you swat at it. It's constantly buzzing around, sucking the joy out of everything, and leaving you with an itchy sense of dread. When inflation is high, everything costs more. Your groceries, your gas, your rent, that overpriced latte you just can't resist, it all adds up. For businesses, it's like trying to run a marathon with a lead weight strapped to your back. They have to pay more for raw materials, energy, and labor, which eats into their profits faster than a pack of hungry wolves devouring a carcass. And here's the real kicker. Businesses can't always pass those higher costs on to consumers. Why? Because people are already struggling to make ends meet, and they're not willing to pay an arm and a leg for a loaf of bread. So, businesses are caught in a bind, absorb the higher costs and risk going bankrupt, or raise prices and risk losing customers. It's a real Sophie's choice, except nobody gets to keep their baby. The good news is that inflation seems to be cooling down a bit, but it's still significantly higher than the Fed's target. So, while we might not be in full-blown hyperinflation territory yet, we're still feeling the bite, and it's definitely contributing to the bankruptcy surge. Remember that time you ordered a package online and it took 3 months to arrive, and when it finally did show up, it was the wrong size and smelled faintly of fish? Yeah, that's the global supply chain in a nutshell. It's a tangled mess of factories, ships, trucks, and warehouses all trying to get stuff from one place to another, and it's currently experiencing a meltdown of epic proportions. The pandemic, the war in Ukraine, and a whole host of other global disruptions have thrown the supply chain into disarray. It's like a giant game of Jenga where someone just pulled out the bottom block. Factories are shutting down, shipping costs are skyrocketing, and goods are stuck in transit limbo, slowly gathering dust and cobwebs. This supply chain chaos is a major headache for businesses. They can't get the materials they need to make their products, they can't get their products to consumers, and they're facing massive delays and cost increases that are eating into their profits. It's like trying to bake a cake with only half the ingredients and a broken oven. The supply chain is slowly starting to recover, but it's a long and arduous process. Until it's back to normal, businesses will continue to feel the pain, and bankruptcies will likely continue to rise. Consumers, those brave souls who keep the economy chugging along by buying stuff, are walking a financial tightrope right now. They're facing a triple whammy of high inflation, stagnant wages, and rising interest rates, which is about as much fun as juggling live grenades. When inflation is high, consumers have to spend more on essentials like food, gas, and housing, which leaves them with less money for discretionary spending. And when wages aren't keeping up with inflation, it's like trying to run on a treadmill that keeps getting faster. You're working harder but getting nowhere. To make matters worse, rising interest rates are making it more expensive to borrow money for things like cars, homes, and even vacations. So consumers are being squeezed from all sides, and they're starting to cut back on spending to make ends meet. This drop in consumer spending is bad news for businesses, especially those that rely on discretionary spending, like restaurants, retail stores, and entertainment venues. When people are cutting back, businesses suffer, and bankruptcies become more likely. Section 7, the tech fallout Silicon Valley stumbles. Silicon Valley, the land of unicorns, venture capital, and hoodies, isn't immune to the bankruptcy bug. In fact, the tech sector is experiencing its own mini meltdown, and it's not pretty. Tech companies, especially startups, are particularly vulnerable to economic downturns. They often rely heavily on venture capital funding, which dries up faster than a puddle in the desert when investors get spooked. And when interest rates rise, those juicy valuations start to look about as appealing as a week-old burrito. We've already seen some high-profile tech companies go belly up in recent months, and experts are predicting that there are more casualties to come. The once booming tech sector is facing a reality check, and it's not clear how many companies will survive the shakeout. Section 8, small businesses bearing the brunt. Small businesses, the backbone of the American economy, are bearing the brunt of the bankruptcy surge. They're like the little guy in a boxing match against Mike Tyson, outmatched, outgunned, and likely to get knocked out. Small businesses operate on thin margins, which means they have less room for error when things get tough. They're also more reliant on local economies, which are being hit hard by the current economic downturn, and they often lack the resources and financial cushion to weather a prolonged storm. The bankruptcy surge is hitting small businesses particularly hard, and it's having a devastating impact on local communities. When small businesses go under, jobs are lost, storefronts go vacant, and the economic fabric of a community is weakened. Section 9, global ripple effects, a world on edge. The bankruptcy boom isn't just an American problem, it's a global phenomenon. Like a contagious virus, it's spreading across borders, infecting economies worldwide. The global economy is interconnected in ways that would make even the most seasoned economists scratch their head. When one country sneezes, the whole world catches a cold. And right now, the US economy is sneezing up a storm. The bankruptcy surge in the US is having ripple effects across the globe, from Europe to Asia to Latin America. Businesses everywhere are feeling the pinch, and bankruptcies are on the rise. Section 10. What's next? Navigating the uncertain future. Predicting the future is a fool's errand, but we can make some educated guesses based on the current trends. The bankruptcy boom is likely to continue in the near term, as businesses grapple with the perfect storm of economic challenges. The good news is that there are some signs of hope. Inflation is cooling down, the supply chain is slowly recovering, and the Federal Reserve might ease up on interest rate hikes soon. But it's too early to declare victory. The global economy is still in a fragile state, and the bankruptcy boom is a stark reminder of the challenges we face. The road ahead is uncertain, but one thing is clear. We need to be prepared for the bumps along the way. So buckle up, folks, and hold on tight. This bankruptcy roller coaster is far from over. Before you go, make sure to hit the subscribe button, leave a comment down below saying, "I subscribed," and do not miss any of our next videos.